Well, I'll read it out loud and we will address it. Well, we won't address it. It's just a comment. But Jay Scott, thank you, the super chat. Jay Scott says, Nico said he wants to challenge you to a debate on Tulsi's BDS vote.
Nico wants to challenge everybody
only
to a debate.
If you both wear I Love Tulsi thongs and are oiled up. and end it by praying to Tulsi in a blood ritual. So I'm guessing that this is not something that Nico really said. But thank you for that.
That's funny. The thing is, Nico challenges everybody to debates.
I challenge you.
I challenge you. I respect that.
It reminds me of the duels where like people would like take off their gloves and like
slap the other guy.
And be like, I challenge you.
Just smack the shit out the other person. All right, so BDS. What is BDS?
What does BDS stand for? Boycott, divestment, sanctions.
So BDS is boycott, divestment, sanctions. Now, this is a movement that was started, if I'm not mistaken, in 2005 to do what they say, boycott, divest, and sanction Israel for its brutal occupation of the Palestinian territories. Israel recently, a few days ago, knocked down housing for hundreds of families, saying it was too close to a wall, a legal wall that they put up, mind you. And now you have people who were dirt poor who are now homeless and dirt poor. Look, BDS is not anti-Semitic. It's not anything. It's boycott, divestment, and sanctions. The goal of it is to get Israel to stop occupying those territories. Now, you may say, what is the lengths that BDS goes? Meaning, what do they want to see as an end result for the world, per se? So, I bought their site. If you're going to know what it is, just go to the site. Let them tell you themselves. But beyond that point, just as a secondary thing, it's a nonviolent protest. It tries to get people to not buy things from from businesses or from companies in Israel that deal with the occupation. The goal of it is to put pressure on Israel to stop the occupation. That is the entire point. That is the entire goal. Israel, whatever you want to think of it, is a colonial settler nation, essentially of white Europeans that were atheistic, that were looking for places to settle down. And after the Second World War, it got kicked high gear because of what took place in regards to the Holocaust. Look, I don't take issue with the fact that Israel exists. That was not so much my issue. My issue is the occupation itself. And it's that the United States works with Israel in order to prevent any notion of any sort of a fair deal for it to take place. The resolution that they pass is Orwellian. And the notion that people are defending her for this, saying, well, dude, it's non-buying and so forth. Should you have the right to protest? Even if you disagree with BS, even if you say, look, I think the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement, I don't like that as a solution to dealing with the Israel thing. Fair enough. That's you saying that, though. That's a different thing than saying, I'm going to protest the very act of Americans protesting this. Is it your First Amendment right to protest? Yes. Then why are you singling out the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement, a nonviolent group, and doing so on the day that Israel has decided to knock down and make hundreds of people homeless? It gets more atrocious on top of atrocious in this case. It's a nonviolent protest group. That's what it is. And it's because it's focused at Israel that they don't like it. When it was aimed at South Africa, the goal was, and BDS wasn't aimed at South Africa, I'm just saying sanctions was the thing, and boycotts were the thing that brought South Africa to come to heel. It came, brought them to the table. The catch here is that the United States shields Israel from any real public outcry. There have been, dozens, I think it was like over 40, nearly 50 UN resolutions condemning Israel's behavior in regards to crimes that they were committing in Palestine. It's utterly atrocious. Not to mention the thousands of people that they killed. They killed hundreds of people last year in the right of return. And many of those people were peaceful protesters. That young girl who was a medic who got shot at the border. But the problem here is not, that. It's not that they're occupying somebody else's territory. It's the peaceful protest against the occupying of the territory. And you're coming to me, and now you're trying to explain to me why you sign your name to a vote singling out this organization, a peaceful protest group, as being necessary of condemnation. You don't get, I'm going to go to Tulsi's explanation, but...
All right, we've got some good comments on this.
Okay.
Some super chats. Do you want me to read them before you go on?
Well, let me go for the BS. Let me name what they are first. What are boycotts? Boycotts involve withdrawing support from Israel's apartheid regime, complicit Israeli supporting cultural and academic institutions from all Israeli and international companies engaged in violation of Palestinians' human rights. Divestment. Campaign urged banks, local councils, church pension funds, and universities withdraw investment from the State of Israel and all Israeli and international companies that sustain Israeli apartheid. Sanctions. Sanctions campaign pressure governments to fulfill their legal obligations to end Israeli apartheid and not aid or assist in maintenance by banning businesses with illegal Israeli settlements, ending military trade and free trade agreements, as well as suspending Israel's membership in international forums such as the UN bodies and FIFA. And that's probably where they're like, oh, they're trying to hurt Israel. You are militarily occupying somebody else's land. And somebody else was there before you got there. I have to be honest, just because an atrocity was committed to you does not allow you in some kind of cosmic weird way to turn around and commit an atrocity to somebody else. That's a full stop. I have no issue with the existence of Israel.
I feel like you should be less inclined to do so.
But that's like if people who get abused, do they turn around and abuse other people? Yeah. It doesn't make people great when they get abused.
I feel you, but like you were talking about earlier, that's like blacks saying, okay, well, I'm going to own slaves.
I'm going to now own slaves now that we've been slaves. It's like, well, my people
and it's not just like you were abused like personally. I mean, you're talking about a whole,
generations ago.
Right. Well, I'm talking about a whole people, not just like me as an individual. Like, would you really want to do that to other? I don't know. I just feel like you should be less inclined to do so because it was done to your family, to your.
Not Israel. They've put people in open air ghettos, and they've had those people in those ghettos, and they've prevented them from returning to their homes, and they've continued the illegal settlement building. Mind you, against even U.S. policy. The U.S. gives these kind of, oh, that's so sad, please don't do that. But don't really do anything about the fact that they're stealing more and more and more land. And look, there's a time limit on this problem. You've put people in an open-air ghetto, and you've continued to take more and more land from those people in that open-air ghetto. 90% of the water, is undrinkable, and the United States, for the most part, is on the side of Israel, meaning there is no negotiations that is taking place because Israel doesn't need to negotiate.
Right,
it has nuclear weapons. It has the United States. It has international, at the very least, not doing anything about it, so they can continue to steal more and more and more land. The world sits back, wrings their hands, and the Palestinians are pushed further and further into these ghettos. I guess my point is there's no compulsion on Israel to do anything. So the notion that Tulsi Gabbard and some of these other Democrats, Ayanna Pressley, and many of the other Democrats come out and say the problem here is peaceful protests, not the fact that Israel is breaking international law. And I'm going to read parts of this agreement. It's astonishingly Orwellian.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right, before we do, because I want to make sure that before you go into this, that you hit the points that people are sharing. So Manny, thank you, Manny. Manny says HR 1837, which passed the same day, would end BDS. Are you familiar with HR 1837? HR 1837. Joel Sass, thank you, Joel. He says, Israel is a vassal state, 100% dependent on U.S. patronage. Israel needs to exist as long as the U.S. bases dollar value on the price of oil.
It's a colony. I mean, look, if you were back during, let's say 1840s, and you could get a camera crew to observe what was taking place, I strongly suspect it would look like this. They would create laws. They would try to codify those laws to try to make themselves look as if they were right and that what they were doing was okay. Think of what was taking place in America from the standpoint of the Native Americans. The U.S. would make laws. They would put the Native Americans in reservations. They would grow, and you would have military to kind of get in to have these kind of border clashes and everything else as they kill the Native Americans. it's not that big of a difference. The only difference is we're in modern times and we're looking at it and they're calling themselves Israel and you have the international support that backs them up. Like if you were like the only difference, it's a colony. It's a colonial settlement.
To add to that, Manny also said HR 1837 is Orwellian, your word of the day. He says HRES 246, which is the one that
we're talking about,
right, that we're talking about, points out that 67% of Americans aren't for BDS. Tulsi will sponsor HR Res 469. It says we can still participate in BDS. Somebody else said the problem with Tulsi is that she doesn't believe in sanctions in BDS, and that sanctions are what give BDS teeth.
Okay, but sanctions are what give BDS teeth.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just was making another statement to add to that.
I guess it's wishy-washy. I mean, why would you sign your name on any of it? Does that make sense? It's like, look, this is the bill that I'm talking about right here. Just so you can see what we're referring to. Now, there's a lot in this bill, but there are a few parts that I highlighted. Whereas global boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement targeting Israel is campaigning that does not favor a two-state solution and that seeks to exclude the state of Israel and Israel people from the economic, cultural, and academic life of the rest of the world. I don't think that's true at all. In fact, that's weird, but let's keep going. And just to be clear, Israel is depriving Palestine of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, economic, cultural, academic, like the things that they're saying that they're trying to deprive Israel of, Israel is currently depriving Palestine of, just so we're clear. Whereas global BDS movement promotes principles of collective guilt, mass punishment, and group isolation, which are destructive and prospects for progress towards peace and a two-state solution. Now, I love this one because this is kind of what I get with the Orwellian stuff. Do you realize that Israel promotes collective guilt? That if somebody is a terrorist or something, it is possible that they are going to blow their houses up or punish everybody that is in that particular area? I mean, this is stuff that Nazis used to do. They do collective guilt. So let's just be very clear. And again, we're talking about military occupation of somebody else's territory that is depriving the people who live there of their right of return, not to mention continuing to take more and more land. Israel is afoul of all sorts of violations from the standpoint of the United Nations Human Rights Council. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 50. So let's just be clear what we're talking about. This is Orwellian that she's signing her name to this. And by the way, do you honestly believe that what the United States government has been doing for the past 20, 30 years has been towards peace of a two-state solution? Israel and the United States have been joined at the hip. The United States has been giving Israel billions and billions and billions of dollars. Israel's nuclear weapons at the time where the United States was literally killing 2,000 Palestinians, 80% of which were civilians. The United States was still giving them billions of dollars in weapons. Does that promote a two-state solution or not? Fuck out of here. This document is astonishing. I mean, like, it's Orwellian. And people are trying to, like, oh, but wait, the document is nuanced. The document is nuanced. Whereas boycotts and similar tools aimed at promoting racial justice and social change have been used effectively in the United States, South Africa, and other parts of the world. And whereas contrast to protest movement, they're trying to delineate BDS from other protest movements. And they sought racial justice, social change. BDS movement targeting Israel is not about promoting coexistence, civil rights, and political reconciliation, but about questioning and undermining the very legitimacy of the country and its people. I love how everything is delegitimizing Israel while it delegitimizes Palestine and prevents that country from existing at all. This document is astonishing. I'm sorry, this document is astonishing. It just affirms constitutional for free speech, except when that speech is used to criticize Israel. That's astonishing. They signed their name to this. Like, even if you say, I completely believe that Israel should exist. I completely agree that it should exist. I am uncomfortable with passing policies that criticize or that tried to undermine the ability of Americans to protest. I'm sorry. That's a problem for me. That's a fail for me. I'm sorry. This is Tulsi's excuse. And by the way, this is BDS. BDS response to them voting for this. Palestinians condemn the anti-BDS resolution 246 currently being considered by the U.S. Congress. This resolution is based on lies and aims to demonize peaceful resistance to Israel's military occupation and apartheid. On behalf of the Palestinian-led BDS movement, Omar Baghdadi said this anti-Palestinian resolution would directly undermine the First Amendment of the Constitution. It reinforces other McCarthyite anti-BDS laws, which have a chilling effect on free speech, especially speech that is critical of Israel's military occupation and apartheid. Yes, that's exactly what it does. HRS 246 includes outright lies about the peaceful BDS movement, BDS campaigns against institutions and corporations that are directly complicit in violations of Palestinians' human rights. It does not target individuals. The BDS movement targets complicity, not identity, and has zero tolerance policy of racism, sexism, and all forms of discrimination, including anti-Semitism. We applaud H.R. 496, sponsored by Ilhan, Rashid Tlaib, and John Lewis, for reaffirming the right to boycott as a time-honored, constitutionally protected practice employed to oppose systems of injustice. This is Tulsi's response.
Some of you have sent me messages and posted on social media asking for more information about why I voted the way I did on a recent resolution talking about BDS. So I wanted to give you some background and talk to you about my commitment to defending our First Amendment rights. Nothing is more fundamental to the identity of our country than the rights and freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution. Now, I've fought to defend these freedoms both as a soldier and a congresswoman, and it's why I will continue to oppose unconstitutional legislation like S1, a bill that does seek to restrict freedom of speech by imposing legal penalties against those who participate in the BDS movement. That's why I co-sponsored HRES 496, to affirm our freedom of speech and right to protest or boycott for any cause, as well as stating opposition to any legislative efforts that seek to restrict these fundamental First Amendment rights. Now, I voted for HRES 246 because I support a two-state solution that provides for the rights of both Israel and Palestine to exist and for their people to live in peace with security in their homes. I don't believe BDS is the way to accomplish that. However, I will continue to defend those who choose to exercise their right to free speech without any threat of legal action. Now, HRES 246 does not in any way limit or hinder our First Amendment rights. In fact, it affirms every American's right to exercise free speech for or against U.S. foreign policy, as well as the right of Israeli and Palestinian people to live in safe and sovereign states, free from fear and violence, and with mutual recognition. Now, the right to protest the actions of our government is essential if America is to truly be a free society. So no matter what our disagreements are about various political positions or choices that our government makes, we can all agree that every American should have the freedom to make those disagreements known and to protest peacefully in support of their views.
Just so we're clear, she voted for a bill that apparently has no weight, based on what she's saying, that condemns a nonviolent protest movement. And I'm unclear as to why she voted for this bill. I mean, even if you say, I don't think the BDS movement is a way to get to this, but the BDS movement is just a protest group. You are condemning a protest group, a nonviolent protest group? That's utterly bizarre. Why are you doing that? Even if you argue, you say, I don't think the BDS movement is the way to get there. Okay, that's your opinion. Fair enough. You may not think that. You may completely disagree that boycott, divest, sanctions is the way to go about it. What does that have to do with you voting to condemn the group? That's so bizarre. It's utterly bizarre that you would single this out like this.
right, let me read because we've got a lot of comments on this topic. One that popped out for me. People are going back and forth saying, you know, what you're saying. What does it mean?
Yeah.
So Nicole says it says the government will not participate in BDS, but that citizens have the right still to, you know, protest. Wait, let me finish reading.
Good.
Balthazar 228. Thank you. Balthazar says Israel is the single greatest impediment to Middle Eastern peace.
Yes.
It spreads hateful impressions of Jews and ties them to Judaism.
Yes.
It's creating camps not dissimilar to the ones that Jews faced in World War II.
It's creating
and
ghettos.
He says he is a Jew himself.
Yeah, it's creating ghettos. And by the way, I don't make the Nazi comparison. I might have used a term like innocence of collective guilt. But there is a difference. I don't think they're putting them in death camps in that sense. Like, it wasn't, you know, I don't think the goal of the camps or the ghettos that Jews are creating are exactly the same as the goals of, you know, I don't make those comparisons. I'm saying whether it is or not is kind of besides the point. It is a travesty that's existed for so long. And the only reason that it's existed for so long is because the United States has backed Israel up whole hog. They asked Bernie Sanders recently, would you stop giving Israel money as a condition of them coming to the negotiating table? Because let's be very clear. The thing that they accuse BDS of is literally what the United States does. Like right here. It says, whereas in contrast to previous movement, principle collective guilt punishment, nope. Whereas aimed at promoting racial justice collectively in the United States, or the word, nope. Right. The campaign does not favor two-state solutions, seek to exclude the state of Israel, people from economic, cultural. Okay, that's what Israel is doing to Palestine. The political movement undermines, right here. BDS is one of several recent political movements that undermine the possibility of a negotiated solution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict by demanding concessions of one party alone and encouraging the Palestinians to reject negotiations in favor of international pressure. Think about what that's saying. The United States has been joined at the hip to Israel for decades. And the sham of a peace process that we're working for a peace process. But everybody knows that for the last decade or more that the United States has been joined at the hip with Israel, and that any peace process would have been at the behest or at the worst end for the Palestinians, because there was no fair arbiter in this peace process. The fact that they're saying that the BDS movement is undermining any notion of a peace process because, you know, it's kind of doing what I argue that the United States is doing for Venezuela. It's like the opposition would never come to the bargaining table. Why would they? You have a superpower working on your side. But this is to believe that the BDS movement has such clout. It's so much clout that the Palestinians don't come to the negotiating table because the BDS movement has so much clout that's nonsense. She signed her name to this. Like, so I'm supposed to look at this document. Tulsi Gabbard says, yes, I'm signing my name to this document as being legit, real, and earnest. This document is nonsense. It is Orwellian in scope. The BDS movement is the organization that's preventing Palestinians from coming to the negotiating table. It's the Palestinians' fault. Israel has nuclear weapons. Israel has these things where they come in and they mow the lawn, killing thousands and thousands of people. But it's the Palestinians that's the problem. They just destroyed hundreds of houses. People who didn't have anywhere to live. Now, if you're coming to me and you say, I think the Palestinians should come to the negotiating table, okay. You can even say, I think Israel should remain, meaning I'm a strong supporter of Israel. But it's a secondary question of whether or not people should be able to protest that. And the answer is, of course, yes. Yeah. And people should have to say, yes, I want to support the BDS movement to stop what I consider and I don't particularly like. Why are you fucking with me in the sense of law? Meaning, why are you even putting this in, even if it just condemns it? Why are you doing that? Like, that, it's just so bizarre. It's so over the top that you're even doing this. It's utterly Orwellian. It's Orwellian.
All right, rest of the super chats on this one while we're still here. Manny says, another to clarify, no presidential candidate supports BDS.
Oh, I don't think they do. But it's a secondary thing of making a vote to go. Like, for example, look at this. I was looking up when I first did this video, Sanders, when this was introduced into the Senate, Sanders said it is absurd that you would pass this? Where is it?
That's the video.
Well, he's not a supporter of BDS, but I'm looking for... Sanders called for a more even-handed approach. He said a one-state solution to the conflict will spell peril for Israel. I support Israel's right to exist. All right, so this is one of those things where it's... If you say, I support a single-state solution, at that point, Israel will say, oh, you're trying to say we're not going to exist. Like, if you say one man, one vote, Israel say it destroys Israel, in which case Israel said they want to exist. So they always say a two-state solution in this case. Look, I just want a solution. I just want them to work this shit out. Do you realize I've yet to meet an Israeli that I haven't liked? Has nothing to do with Israel, in a sense. And I know it sounds a little weird, but it's, in my interactions, be it when I was there the first time around, be it the second time around, be it when I was traveling, in my interactions with Israelis, meaning people who are from Israel, not people who are from America that moved there, it has always been good interactions, and they've always been open to have these type of conversations, whether I want to have these conversations or not. My issue is not the existence. My issue is the conflict and what takes place in regard to that existence. Sanders, when he was asked for a vote like this, he said it will be absurd for this to be the first thing that we vote on, because Republicans, the first bill in the Republican House was an anti-BDS bill. He said that was absurd to make that vote.
Okay. Dataless Stream says, I'd respect Tulsi more if she said APAC is too big for me to tackle while I'm polling at 1%. Joel Sass, thank
Agreed.
you. He says, just to clarify from his last comment, when the petrodollar dies, Israel will follow.
I don't know. I mean, I think his argument is that Israel is entirely dependent on the United States. Israel has nuclear weapons. So I don't know how dependent, like in that sense. Like, it's like maybe yes, it's for some certain degree of clout, like Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United States have created this kind of fulcrum of power in that region of the world. They won't be getting billions of US dollars, I'll tell you that much.
Manny, again, he says, H-Reg 246 does not impede your right to protest. He says H.R. 1837 will.
I didn't say this does.
That is the point. A simple resolution does not do anything. A bill can become law.
I didn't say it does. I said it's the protest of the right to protest. My issue here is that she put her name on it in the first place. I mean, these are congressmen saying, this is what we, from our perspective of the U.S. government, this is the perspective. Not that it has a force of law per se, more so that they're even putting her name to it in the first place. Why are you attacking a nonviolent protest group against a military occupation? That's basically what it is. And you're attacking the First Amendment to do so. That's my issue. But I'll check up, I'll look up HR 1837.
There's a lot of numbers and bills. Okay, Balthazar 228. Thank you, Balthazar. Balthazar says, I fear all of the candidates are vastly underestimating how bad the situation is and overestimating how much supporting Israel benefits them. And that's a quote from Abby Martin.
That's interesting. And I think they're right.
Well, that's from Abby Martin.
But I think their issue is cash. I don't think the issue is like it's have you ever did you watch a movie The Lobby? The Lobby talks about Israel's influence in I think it was British politics, but there's one for America also. But there's a segment of it where they have a hidden camera where he's talking to one of the lobbyists, and he says, "Look, we can get money to you. It's not legal for me to put money in your pocket, but what I can do is point you in the direction of people who will put a lot of money in your pocket." Now, when Ilhan Omar made that point, they were like, "Oh!" It had nothing to do with them being Jews. It had everything to do with it being a lobby. There's a difference.
Joe Snake says, Tulsi has the best voting record. This is a resolution, nothing to the BDS or free speech. It's not a bill, just a resolution.
That's it was a bill.
1837 is a bill.
But beyond that point, wait. Whether it's a bill or a resolution, why does that matter? Like, she's signing her name to either a bill or resolution, whatever you want to call it, but I'm just making the point that you are protesting free speech. I mean, that's basically what it's a protest of the First Amendment. It doesn't have to have force of law to me. I don't really care. I mean, the fact that the protest exists in and of itself can be a testing of the waters as far as I'm concerned. How many people are going to be upset about it? How many of this will pass it? Because at some point, that testing of the waters is not just the testing of the waters. It's actually trying to pass policy. The response to this should be aggressive, to say the least.
Manny says HR Res 246 is a simple resolution,
All right, so right
not a bill. So I think you just commented on that one.
HR 13, okay, right here. So this is to make improvements in certain defense and security assistance provisions and authorize assistance to Israel and other purposes.
Now, what's S1? Because Manny's saying S1 was a bill, not a resolution. And that's the one in the video that Tulsi says, I support S1.
Well, no, she said she was against S1.
She's against S1.
Yeah, she says she didn't sign S1 because that would have been against, protest rights or something like that. She's trying to make nuance. All right, I'll check this one out.
All right, so you're going to look a little bit more into the other resolutions, bills that were introduced and or passed.
All right, and this one is
any
HR
Streamlabs before we move on?
Yeah, this bothered me to say the least, because that's a fail. Kills for a living. Tulsi is against free speech, and you want to see her on the debate stage. Oh, the irony. I don't think she's against free speech. I think she's a political actor, and she's taking certain actions for political reasons. She can try to defend this one saying, oh, that's just a resolution. It's not that big of a deal. I'm defensive of Israel, etc., etc., etc. Ilhan Omar and AOC had the right response to this. They trashed this resolution.
Read the rest of his comment.
The vote alone disqualifies, yet you always shielding her. Her explanation was trash. I was sick of Tulsi's stands, licking her. Oh, that's nasty. Look, I don't know what you're talking about. Like this tweet or this is so out of bounds of reality. I am literally being critical of Tulsi Gabbard on this. And I've, on more than one occasion, explained to you why I want to see her on the debate stage. I have very specific reasons for wanting to see her on the debate stage. It has nothing to do with her winning. Whether she's against free speech or not, I think she's a political actor. She took political actions in this particular thing for something that I found utterly distasteful, considering what was taking place in Israel at the time they were making this vote. So